Hey guys, what's happening? So, okay, after much mowing over my thoughts, I figured by now I'm just gonna jump into the spoiler talk because I'm pretty sure a lot of people have already seen Avengers Endgame. So, to do the non spoiler, like seriously, who is on the fence whether they're gonna see it or not? Like, really? Okay. Oh man, there's so much. Oh, first thing though, I do like the little extra stuff they do, like it's your IMAX, and I think they do it for Dolby as well too. I'm not sure if it's just IMAX, but um, when I went to go see it in IMAX, I saw it twice. I saw it in IMAX the first time, and when I went to IMAX, they did do like the exclusive cups. They did like a poster too, but I do like, I just love it. Yeah, and focus, whatever. Yeah, man, but this is crazy. Like the popcorn cup. You have all the Avengers on here, man. The feels right now, man. The feels. The feels. Oh my goodness, the feels. But yes. Yes. That is crazy. So I do like that I got that. But like I said, spoiler alert, spoiler warning, spoiled milk, whatever. I'm talking spoilers in this video. So you know, now you know. Okay? Alright, so let's get into it. So first thing, man, there was just so many nods to the comics in this movie that not only paid off the previous films, previous what, 21 films, but the the culmination of everything that came together and still gave additional nods to the comics. Like you're like towards the end when the Hulk caught the Avengers facility, you know, and there was Rhodey and Rocket under there. I was just thinking in my mind like 1984, 85, Secret Wars, man. Like when him holding that mountain, it's like I wanted this. I wanted it in a bit bigger of a way, but just to get that kind of moment for a little bit, it was extraordinary, man. It was extraordinary. But where do I start? Man, it was just so much. Like even the Stan Lee cameo. Oh my god. I wanted that cameo. What's crazy, a lot of stuff that I made either prediction for. I mean, some stuff landed, some stuff is just completely way off. But some stuff that I made prediction for, I wanted in Avengers Infinity War and in Captain Marvel, I actually got in this film. And I'm just glad that I got it, period. Like the Stan Lee cameo. I wanted the younger Stan Lee cameo in Captain Marvel, but instead we got it in Avengers Endgame, which is pretty dope. And other things just like some crazy payoffs, like the same way that Vision died twice, you got Thanos dying twice. You know what I'm saying? Which is pretty wild. But yeah, just getting right into it, man. I guess just starting from the beginning, when you get into, I guess from the gates where it opens up with Hawkeye and his family, it's like, oh man, you already know. Like in my mind, I'm thinking like you already know that this film is gonna begin with that a bit of that heartbreak and just the same tone that Avengers Infinity War ended with. That's what Endgame's got to start with, because we got to know where they're going from there. And just seeing Hawkeye and his family and the way they did it when he turned away from his daughter for just a few seconds, and when the dust flew by, it's not like he knew what was going on. He just thought, you know, it was probably some leaves or something, and she went off somewhere. But when he turned back and the entire family was gone, it was just like boom, confirmation, they all gone. And we kind of knew that's one of the things that pushed him towards being Ronin. But to see it play out like that, to actually see it play out in his reaction and how his expression just changed right away. Like, where are you? It's just like the pain, the confusion, all of that, all at the same time. Like, it was just bananas. But moving forward from there, you have one of the things that I kind of thought in my mind that didn't really click so much the first time around, but I kind of got it later on, was this film, the way that the film connects with the post credit to Captain Marvel. So from my perspective of what I've seen, it's like, okay, when we get to Tony in space and him and Nebula playing football, like, I mean, they're just kicking the field goals. I don't know if you guys remember actually playing like the paper football game. You gotta kind of do the kickoff, like you put on the edge of the table, you flip it up for the kickoff, and you gotta push it so many times without it going over. And then if you get it over without it falling, then you kick the field goal. So I don't know if they was playing, like that, or they were just doing just the field goal part. But either way, that's way off subject. So, but yeah, so with Captain Marvel, with her post-credit scene, when it came to the point of Tony nearly about to die, and Nebula just sat him, towards the edge of the ship so he could at least, pass away, having a view or whatever, because she was definitely, he was definitely going to go before her because she can sustain a bit longer, obviously. But with when Captain Marvel just arriving there and taking the both of them back, you can tell, like, from the post-credit of Captain Marvel and her getting there, talking about where's Fury, that from that moment she was trying to realize, or just from that moment she actually got caught up with everything that's going on, and it's very likely that it was within that conversation that Rocket told Captain Marvel that the Guardians of the Galaxy, everybody had split up, and it's possibly likely that Rocket told Captain Marvel where the rest of the Guardians had ended up to, whether they had communicated, that way or whatnot. Because, pretty much in Infinity War, they did kind of split up who was going to deliver the lair and who else was going to face Thanos. And that's how, Star-Lord and the others ended up running into Tony in Infinity War or whatnot. But it's likely that he sent Captain Marvel to go, that Rocket sent Captain Marvel to go out there, and it's when she found out, okay, she went to Titan first, I assume, you know what I'm saying? And then after that, she figured out they weren't there, and what happened there, didn't work out, and on her way back, possibly, or even on her way there, who knows? But that's pretty much what I picked up, or what I put together of how possibly she went out there to go get Tony and the rest of the others. But as it turned out, that's when, she brought them back, and that's one of the reasons why when they returned, Pepper was already outside. Like, she didn't leave from outside. She probably was out there the whole time, however many hours that may have took, just waiting for Tony to get back or hoping Tony was still alive. And that moment too, when Captain Marvel brought the ship back, man, it was, even though you seen it in the trailers, it's like it was still emotional. You know what I'm saying? Because when Cap and Tony, Tony was just like, I lost a kid, and Cap was like, man, we lost. Like, we lost. You know what I'm saying? It's like it just sunk in so hard, and then him seeing Pepper, and it was crazy. It was crazy, man. Like, but I gotta say, in addition to that, I also like how they handled Captain Marvel within this film. And not to say I'm a huge Captain Marvel fan, and not to knock Captain Marvel in any way, but with the minimal screen time in here, and especially with a lot of the moments when she had went off to her explaining being off in space, and then her returning to space later on in the film, to me, I really liked how, like, in my mind, that set up for Phase 4, the whole idea of the Ultimates and that team being a space-based team. You know what I'm saying? So, and I feel like through the future of the MCU, that we may get a separation of your Avengers, your Ultimates, and eventually, like, your Fantastic Four and X-Men as well. Because from what I've been reading and seeing online, a lot of the X-Men and Fantastic Four stuff is going to be much later on, like either late Phase 4 or like Phase 5, before we see any of that. But I feel like in Endgame, they're already starting to plant little seeds to set up the explanation of how these things come together. And with them setting up the explanation of how that comes together, I also want to say that, they can either do that with Ultimates, or they can do that with, like, the Alpha Flight space team as well too. They can set that up either way. I'd probably imagine they do it with the Ultimates, because they pretty much have all the Ultimates, characters, well, almost all the Ultimates characters in the MCU established already, like, with the exception of, like, Blue Marvel. But we already have, like, Spectrum, we already got Captain Marvel, Black Panther, and Galactus, of course. We still got to get Galactus in there. But those are things that can roll in later on. You know what I'm saying? But I do feel like that would be a dope thing to have in the MCU. Or I feel like they're setting that up, and that would be pretty dope when that does play out. And even with that, I wouldn't be surprised if... Okay, so if you guys noticed in the film, with the way that Rhodey was very quick and crass with Captain Marvel towards the beginning, before the 5-year stretch, and then after the 5-year stretch, it's very subtle. You may have missed it, but it's very subtle. But when they go to that conference call when you have the different holograms, and Captain Marvel kind of tells off Rocket, like, I'm kind of watching over the whole galaxy or the whole universe. Like, this is what happened on Earth is happening everywhere. But if you, in that moment when they get off that call, when everybody says goodbye or whatever, Captain Marvel only turns to Rhodey and she tells him, good luck, or she only tells him that. And it's like the change in their relationship over that 5 years. I think they might even play into like they did in the comics, where the two of them are actually together or have their thing going on. So I wouldn't be surprised if that plays out in the MCU throughout Phase 4 in some type of way, form, or fashion. Like, so possibly look out for that. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So so rolling back to when Captain Marvel has arrived, Tony's back, everybody's back, and they go for their first attempt, like we seen in the footage of was it Good Morning America or one of those. But when we see the footage of them talking about, okay, we'll just get the stones just like that, let's go do this. When they went for that first attempt, which was pretty crazy, like when they put that plan together and all the Avengers went out to go, and it's at this point in time, it's not long after the snap, like it's still fresh, the snap's still fresh. But when they go out to Titan and they figure out through Nebula that to Titan 2 that Thanos is out there and he's just on the farm picking fruit and just doing what he do. And when they go in there, and I wanted that attack to be very hard, very harsh. And in my mind, like in my predictions before, I thought it would be, I knew it was going to be a failed attempt, but I thought it would play out different. And I didn't exactly understand I didn't know how exactly they would play into the Captain Marvel versus Thanos type of thing. But when we got into the actual moment of it, how it executed through the film, I was like, okay, this is definitely your weaker Thanos. And he's not using any stones, when they subdued him pretty quick. And oh man, I screamed when Thor cut off his arm. I was just like, come on, man, like that's this what you should have did the first time. But it's kind of hard from that angle if he pointed like this and then the hammer flying like that. But anyway, when Thor cut off Thanos' arm, I screamed. Man, yeah, because that just needed to happen quick. They needed to strike fast and strike quick. But when Thor cut off his arm, Captain Marvel put him in a chokehold, and when it came to the point of where Thanos expressed that he used the stones to destroy the stones, at that point in time it was like, okay, this is where the failure kicks in, because first of all, it's too early in the film to be the end of the film or whatever, but definitely had to be a failed attempt. And with it going down this way, I started to see that this whole failed attempt reminded me a lot of Age of Ultron, because the Russo brothers, for one, they love to reference the previous films, which they did a lot of, and they do it in a beautiful way. And in this fight right here, it reminded me a lot of Age of Ultron. When Thanos said that he used the stones to destroy the stones, at that point I knew that, okay, this is that failed attempt. This is reminding me of Age of Ultron, and just like in Age of Ultron, Thor's gonna end this quick, same way he did with Ultron. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. But I didn't foresee that until it was like seconds before. But I didn't know if he was gonna split his wig or what. And I figured if he chops his head off, they'll probably just show a shadow of it. But no, like Russo brothers, they went biblical. Like they showed it, and I was just like, oh, okay. But I was like, yeah, that was very much like Age of Ultron, and I appreciate that callback, the way they executed that failure, but still made it like epic, like much better than what I could have imagined how it would play out. Man, yeah, but with them finding that out, and then from that point, it just went to that 5 years later, because at that point in time, without Ant-Man coming back, they had no idea of how this whole thing was going to play out, like how. Not necessarily how it's going to play out, but how they're going to fix things to get them back to they were. So this came to the point of where people were either accepting it and trying to move on, or even 5 years later, it's like Widow, like, and the hair thing with Widow, man, like you can see it's like she just didn't even care. She didn't care. Like, why would she like either re-dye her hair? Why would she continue to cut her hair? it's just like, it's over. Like, F it. Like, that's pretty much what her hair was doing. But like we talked about before, my assumption of that showing the passage in time, it did do that, and it did so much more than that in the film, with just showing how she felt at that point in time, like just so hurt. And with Cap having the meetings, or the counseling meetings, trying to help people to move on, very much like Sam was doing. And that may have been a foreshadowing of him passing the mantle to Sam, with him picking up the mantle of Sam before Sam became Falcon. Well, how Sam was doing the group counseling for PTSD soldiers and veterans and stuff, and Cap doing the same thing. But it was crazy, because I gotta say, first time I seen it, I was like, oh man, that's Joe Russo. But when I was watching it, it wasn't until the second time that I seen it that I noticed Jim Starlin, man. Because I guess because I took that break in the film to like kind of eat my burger, you know what I'm saying? During that time, so my face was kind of down, looking up, and I guess when I looked up, the camera went that way. But it wasn't until the second time I seen it, I noticed Jim Starlin in that scene, and the creator of Thanos. But that was pretty wild that he did that cameo. But he said in interviews, like during the time because they filmed Infinity War and Endgame at the same time, but he did say in interviews that he had been on set. But I completely forgot about that and wasn't even looking for his cameo. But I really like that they did that in this film. But yeah, with that whole thing with the Cap doing the counseling sessions, you can tell he definitely had that, trying to tell people to get over and let things go. But him personally, he could not do that. And when you see also with Cap that he was trying to get them to have that kind of mind state, that he personally couldn't do that. And then even when he went to go talk to Will afterwards, there was just like this common ground with them where they both are either these soldiers or these heroes without a purpose, pretty much. And yeah, it was funny when Widow was like, man, if you're trying to tell me to look on the bright side, I'm about to hit you in the face with this sandwich, bro. Like, I'm not trying to hear that. You know what I'm saying? And it's wild, man. But man, like, this movie really made you think about the people. And I've heard and seen, because like online, like spoilers and stuff like that is just everywhere. And it's cool as long as you're saying, or announcing that it's a spoiler. But it's, at this point in time, all the stuff is everywhere. And a lot of people are saying about the first hour of the film, like I seen somebody on Instagram talking about, the first hour of the film was just slow with this, that, and the other. But I feel like it was very necessary. At no point in time during this 3-hour film that I feel like, okay, this is dragging out or this is too long. The pacing, in my opinion, was handled very well. And I'd really have to just search and find certain things in this film that I didn't like. I mean, I feel like there's certain scenes that could have, played out differently, a little bit differently, but it wasn't that I didn't like it or it was too dragged out. I feel like all the beats were necessary for the character development and to build the weight of the certain payoffs toward the end of the film. And certain things that the Russo brothers kind of linger on even longer, for like the scenes with Tony on the ship towards the beginning, I feel like they do, like, those scenes could have been cut shorter, but at the same time, if you cut those shorter, the weight towards the latter part of the film isn't going to weigh as much as it would if you're not refreshing the feelings of certain moments in the film. So it's necessary to linger on certain things longer, whether it's to mislead the audience or whether it's to pay too much attention to certain parts, once again misleading, pay too much attention to certain parts to where it flips on its head and does what you don't expect, so the surprise is bigger later on. A lot of people don't understand that, but it's just, there's a method to the madness in good storytelling, and everything just ain't boom bop bam through the whole movie, you know what I'm saying? But I appreciated that. But either way, as far as, the whole 5 years later thing, Ant-Man. Okay, so all the theories about how Ant-Man got out of the quantum realm, nobody could have guessed that, man. Nobody could have guessed that. Like, I did a video talking about, him going into the quantum realm, saving the Fantastic Four. I even talked about Avengers Disassembled with Ant-Man going into the quantum realm, and the whole thing with saving. Well, Avengers Disassembled was really like more so shown in Ant-Man and the Wasp, because that's where the whole outfit and everything came, coming out of the quantum realm with Hope's mother. I'm drawing a blank right now. But that was pretty much from Avengers Disassembled. But yeah, Ant-Man, like, a rat? Come on, man. Like, a rat just happened to crawl back on that board and hit the button to bring him back. Like, bro, whew. But it was crazy though is that when that did happen, it's like, 5 hours for him inside the quantum realm was 5 years out here. Like 5 and 5. Like that was wild how that played out on that. Fortunate enough for him that it wasn't too far or much further into the future or whatever. But yeah, with him coming back and that 5 years later, pause for a second right there, because with the 5 years of passing and Tony gaining that weight back, I gotta say, Tony was mad skinny prior to that 5 years. When he first got off that ship, he was so skinny and malnourished, he was skinny. He was skinny, man. So in his performance at that table, when he kind of flipped out and smacked over the bowl and he was getting in Cap's face, oh my God, the way he called back that conversation from Avengers Age of Ultron, and just everything that was playing out through Age of Ultron, and just telling Cap that I don't appreciate how you weren't on my side. You weren't there for me. I was trying to build a shield around the world. I was trying to protect this world. And Tony had pretty much seen in that vision, and I got a whole theory for how that vision played out. I feel like Endgame kind of told us how that happened by way of Nebula. But either way, but with that whole vision playing out, and him seeing all that and trying to warn everybody, and it's like, now that we're here, now that we fought together and we lost, like that performance was just second to none, man. Like, Robert Downey Jr. killed that. And what is so wild, man, is that with that calling back to Age of Ultron, lo and behold, towards the end of the film, we get a call back to the first Avengers. Tony was like, I'm more likely to cut the wire, which is part of the reason why Doctor Strange towards the end told him that, if I tell you how it's supposed to happen, it's not gonna happen. Man, that's huge. But either way, so yeah, so going back to the 5 years after and moving from there forward, when it comes to the point that Ant-Man tells them the whole time heist thing and they go to see Tony, man, it is wild, because it's like Tony has his daughter Morgan at this point, and who he thought was a son, back in Avengers Infinity War, I believe he thought it was a son, but he has his daughter Morgan now, and it's like, okay, when they pull up and they pitch him the whole idea of time travel, initially he's just like, no, it's too risky, because he has something to lose at this point. And though as much as Ant-Man wants, Hope and everybody back, it's like he can also relate, because when he's seen Cassie, after all these years, like, you have a daughter too, like you know what he's thinking and feeling right now. I kind of like the little Back to the Future references in this film, and I loved how they executed a lot of things like Back to the Future Part 2, which is one of my favorite movies, like, ever, just to say it. But yeah, I love when a film revisits the previous film with time travel, and when that's done, it's just like, oh man, that's just so beautiful the way they did that. But either way, it made sense. But after they left and Tony was doing the dishes, and which he had, you can tell, like this is Tony Stark doing dishes. Like, you can tell he didn't know what he was doing. Water splashing up all over the place. In that scene, first thing I noticed, like when he put the dishes down, is I noticed the picture of his father, Howard Stark, in the background. But when he reached behind it and pulled out the picture of him and Peter Parker, we seen that had, moved his mind to be like, okay, well, let me at least see if it's possible. And he figured it out pretty quick. And that's one of the things, because with him figuring it out so quick, it's like, that's understandable, because he pretty much has Friday, who knows everything that he knows, but just processes and is able to think with him and for him a lot quicker than him just sitting down and writing things out and drawing on the chalkboard for 3 miles or something. You know what I'm saying? So that makes sense, because all he has to do is just put his imagination, and Friday will do the implementation of whatever theories he has and see if they're sound and if they land. But that was pretty wild when he did figure it out. But when he figured it out, and him and his daughter, man, language. But I thought that was one of the funniest moments, man, like between him and his daughter. And I love you 3000, man. I love you 3000. Like that's not going anywhere anytime soon. Yeah. But it at least, you know what I'm saying, with him figuring it out, and not just that, but also figuring out a way for it to work without turning people into babies. But with everybody, with Cap and Lang, everybody trying to get Tony to be on board with the time heist idea because it's a possibility. Like with them leaving from there and going to get the Hulk, and they just went straight into Professor Hulk, like just straight into it. And they took a little time to explain how that happened. Like to me, I don't mind how that went down because it's like I do feel like that's one of those moments in the film that could have spilled over, the runtime of the entire film. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of moments that they kind of just had to mow over like that. But I had to say this is the one moment that did kind of feel like, okay, we just jumped a lot of stuff and we here. You know what I'm saying? But I understand there's a lot of stuff you got to kind of cut through to do. But yo, when the kid took the picture with him in Ant-Man. Yo, man, with Scott Lang, man, when he was just like, take the phone, man, like that was definitely a good moment. But with it coming down to the whole test runs of how to execute the time travel, and Banner going through all these test runs with Scott Lang, and it turned him into a baby, turning him old, he peeing on himself, he didn't know which one of themselves peed on himself, but it's one of those things to where you understand on the other end, with this not being Banner's area of expertise, to where you see Tony on the other hand, who figured it out pretty quick, and they actually and did it with the safeguard of knowing not how to turn people into babies, so on and so forth, by having them pass through time and not time pass through them. I feel like that worked out really good. And with Tony, it finally came back, and he had the whole the whole idea of the GPS of how to navigate through time, so people know where to go and how to land in whatever particular time. That I think that was pretty cool too. One of my theories, and I think it was in the 6 ways of how this could go down video, I had the idea of something to the nature of them going through the quantum realm and kind of basing or having a hub in the quantum realm and kind of sprouting out from there. But I like the way that they handled the GPS idea thing, because it makes a lot of sense. Like, you're physically going from one place through a realm that's, actually, if you shrink small enough, you enter the quantum realm and you come back out. It's like you grow in the right spot, and it's literally space and time, which makes together the time travel thing. So I feel like it made a lot more sense than a lot of time travel movies by doing it that way. But of course, Endgame had a lot more setup with Ant-Man and the Wasp, and so much more prior to this film to actually make that have that level or that weight of logic go into it. But with them pretty much figuring this out and getting to the point of where they were like, okay, we know what we need to do, we know where we need to go, and figuring out what places had the most stones at what time. And I was just thinking in my mind, like, oh man, somebody has to go to Vormir. And and when Scott Lang was like, not it. Oh man, I was like, that would have been me. Like, I'm just not the person who's going there. We doing whatever it takes. I'm gonna do whatever it takes over here, okay? Not going to Vormir. That was just one of the things that was just like so freaking crazy. Cause when Rhodey, Nebula, Widow, and Hawkeye went to Morag, like, it didn't even dawn on me like the who exactly was going to Vormir until Widow gave Rhodey that hug and they went off, and I was just like, oh man, one of them ain't coming back, man. It's one of them, like, it's narrowed down to who ain't coming back. And I thought that decision or that dichotomy, I thought that was gonna be a pull between, Cap and Tony, but at the same time, it's like, like, that's not what Strange was talking about, where it had to be Tony kind of thing. Now that would have been a crazy scenario if it did come down to Cap and Tony at Vormir, or like who was gonna die, like that would have been wild. Yeah, but with them going through time and doing that split, I'm just gonna start with Vormir, man. Like, the fight between Clint and Natasha for who is going to die, man, that just pulled so many heartstrings, man, because they both were literally fighting each other tooth and nail, like, I'm not gonna let you go, I'm not gonna let you go. And like, Natasha literally had to kick off from Clint, and it's like, man, it was just wild. It was just wild, man. I'm sorry, like Natasha, I would have choked you out. Like I would have choked you out unconscious, and that just would have been it. But yeah, man, that was crazy. Like when she passed, man, and the reaction from Clint afterwards, it's like not what you got from Thanos. He just when he woke up, had the Soul Stone, he was just like, I got it. Like I feel a little something, but on to the next. You know what I'm saying? But to actually see Clint cry about it, and man, oh man, I almost forgot when they first made their jump, with everybody making the jump at the same time to the 3 different locations, or to split up to their 3 locations. The last thing that Natasha said before they jumped, she looked at Cap and she was like, I'll see you in a minute. Yo, the second time when I watched it and I noticed that, oh my God. Like, I was just like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Like, it was so crazy. But, oh man, that was wild. I knew, I mean, I did a lot of theories and stuff. Like, I knew Widow's gonna have a big role. I knew her hair was gonna do the whole time thing, and I assumed that she was gonna have a big role in the film. But her dying, I did not see that. I did not see that coming. No pun intended, Quicksilver. Yeah. But I didn't see that. I did not see that happening, man. Like, man, that's heavy. So, I'd say next, New York, the Battle of New York. It was a lot of good stuff there, man. Like, in the Battle of New York with them going to that original scene in Avengers, and I didn't see the device. Like I could have missed it, but the device that they used that Widow stopped Loki's scepter with, that she used Loki's scepter to stop the device that opened the door. I didn't see it when the Iron Man from the future had landed and was kind of walking behind. I didn't see that. But yeah, with them going in there, I love the whole "That's America's ass." He said that suit did nothing for his ass. That was hilarious. But Ant-Man actually saluting Captain America's ass. That was amazing. But yeah, with them going there and pretty much the whole Battle of New York thing being a botched attempt, and Loki pretty much getting away with the Space Stone and going who knows where. But Banner, on his end, he was successful because he did eventually get the Time Stone from the Ancient One, and it was pretty cool seeing her again, man. Seeing her back alive, and the way that she was handled, like she already knew. She like, okay, you're looking for Strange? Well, you're 5 years too early, because she already knew who Strange was, and she was waiting for that time for things to happen to Strange for him to be in a place where he could be taught. But I liked how they handled that with her. But on top of that, when the Ancient One, when she knocked Banner out of his body, I could have sworn the Hulk was gonna go wild and just do whatever at that moment. And I'm sure they probably thought of that, but once again, time, man. The time restriction. Like, there's so much you gotta do in this film. But I guess that was kind of explained when Banner told us how the Professor thing happened, and he actually did a gamma procedure, which is what it sounded like. He did a gamma procedure that merged the 2 of them both into one. And you know, as we know, like comic readers know, that the Hulk is really a product of multiple personalities. So that's, you know, it's an issue, you know, beyond just 2 people in one body, you know what I'm saying? And he really, like, literally merged all that. So I guess that explains the whole thing with her knocking out just Banner and, you know, Hulk not taking over the body. But, you know, even with that, I like how the Ancient One explained the alternate realities and made it visible for the audience to see. You know, with taking the Time Stone out and it creating a different reality, and her reality just pretty much going to hell in a handbasket without it. But with Banner mentioning returning the Time Stone, that, you know what I'm saying, that would set her reality back on course as long as they bring it back, I guess like seconds after they leave, just seconds later, just bring it back. But I do like her illustrating that with just showing the timeline and showing how it goes off, which is a lot how they do it in the comics. Like time travel, it creates alternate realities. You go back in time, a new timeline is created. And I don't think that they're necessarily done with that. I don't think they're gonna hammer it in and bring it into a lot of things, but I do believe that throughout phase 4, phase 5, we'll see other repercussions as a result of those alternate realities, to which I hope they also explore in the Disney Plus streaming app as well too. But also in New York, you got, I guess with Cap, Tony and Ant-Man figuring out pretty much with them getting in an argument because everything was messed up, or really just Scott Lang getting in an argument with everything messed up, and you know, Tony and Cap figuring out that, or Tony really figuring out that he knows where they can get more Pym particles, and he knows where they can get the Tesseract or the Space Stone. And with them going back to 1970, I believe it was, and in visiting Hank Pym and getting the Pym particles, and also Tony seeing his dad when he picked up the Space Stone, man, like that was crazy. When him seeing his dad and just and feeling the need to express to his father, you know, that he has a daughter, and it really shook Tony up to the point of like we had seen like, because you remember the first time that Tony like got that was really informed about S.H.I.E.L.D. and he got the whole recordings of his father talking about him, this, that, and the other, and to actually go back to, you know, before he was born and talk to his father, which was wild, like just wild that he went back on the day that his dad was going to visit his mother, whatever. I do like that they did figure out a way to make it work out and make it and have another chance, because it was pretty clever. It was pretty clever, and especially with Cap and Tony, they needed to go together to go there, because with Captain America: Winter Soldier, Cap knew exactly where they would have the stone at, where the Tesseract was at, because him and Widow, they both visited that location back in Winter Soldier. So that was a great callback. Excellent execution on that. Let's see what else from there. Morag. So I guess with Rhodey and Nebula, the thing with them, yo, when they see Star-Lord just dancing around and acting stupid from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, that was hilarious. Like they just knocked him out, took the little light or whatever, and the map I guess he had, and found where the Power Stone was. And they just pretty much took it. Like that had to be the easiest one out of everybody. But they pretty much just took that, went over to, you know, got the stone, and Rhodey was out of there, but Nebula wasn't, which I think was a great. I think the whole thing with Nebula, you know, tripping out and having her digital seizure or whatnot, and because two Nebulas were on the same either same frequency or whatever, two consciousnesses on the same frequency. I think that was pretty cool the way that played out into Thanos finding out and then getting on their tail by switching out Nebulas. But I do feel like that you know set up a bit more with what Nebula or what the consequences are of time travel, and how they can crescendo through other things happening throughout the course of time in multiple realities. And I'll probably do a different video on that, because I think that a lot of that went into Tony's visions prior to when Scarlet Witch pretty much amplified that in Age of Ultron by allowing him to see either an alternate reality or another time in an alternate reality of how things were actually going to happen at the Avengers facility, which we saw at the end of the film, but it happened a different way what Tony saw in Age of Ultron. But either way, yeah, so the whole thing, Rhodey getting out of there, you know, Nebula getting caught up in the swap before she got back and everything. But man, when they arrived back to the future, had to say it, but when they arrived back in the future, man, and everybody's like, did that just work? Did we get them all? And then Clint is just there, broken, man, just broken. Oh man, like that moment right there was just so freaking crazy, dude. So crazy. And like from there, I liked when they took it outside and there was like kind of talking on the balcony or by the lake, whatever, and it came to the point where one, I like, okay, with Thor, man, I don't say anything about Thor yet, because I skipped over Asgard. Yeah, I do like, you know, when they went to Asgard, the whole things with Thor, like him, man, he was flipping out, and he definitely deserves to be the one who goes through all of that, man, because with Thor, man, he's been through so much. Ragnarok, he lost, before he lost his father, he lost his mother prior in Thor: The Dark World, which is where they visited the day she died, which is crazy because it makes it fresh all over again. He lost his eye in Ragnarok. He lost Asgard. He's on Asgard, which he lost as well. You know what I'm saying? It's like he's just been through so much, and it is wild that like Fat Thor. It's funny but wild, man. It's so crazy. And I'm trying to remember where that was in the comics with the Fat Thor, man, like the fat drunk Thor. But either way, just the whole emotional state that he was in at that point, like it's it's, you don't have to explain that. Like, I can only imagine what somebody's going through having been through all that. But yeah, it worked out. I like that he did get to see his mother and what she told him, as far as everyone fails at who they're supposed to be, but we have to just be the best at who we are, you know what I'm saying, or something to that nature. But no, I thought that was cool. When Rocket went to get the ether, it was hilarious, because when the other Asgardians were chasing him, there was like, get that rabbit. It was pretty crazy. But with them finally getting ready to leave and Thor getting Mjolnir back, I just thought, like, man, that was just perfect. Like, that was a perfect thing to do, to get Mjolnir. So now there's an alternate reality where Thor has no hammer at all, because that Thor in that reality has no hammer. But I do like that in this reality, Thor has the 2 hammers, which I'm pretty sure, especially with the ending, that we know where that's gonna go. But yeah, with everybody returning back to the future, and even moving forward from there, when you know what I'm saying, Thor was just like, you know, this, we can just undo it. We have all the stones, we can just undo it and then, you know, fix it. And they set in stone there that there's really, no pun intended, they set in stone that there's no undoing, you know, what had happened or whatnot. You know, it gave a realness to the stakes, to like, okay, you can't just undo everything at every point. But I do also gotta say that I feel like with the Russo brothers choosing for Widow to die, not only was it unexpected, but it's going to make the Black Widow film that's coming do way better than had it done if Widow was alive in the MCU. Because if you're like, people, just the way our hearts are so pulled towards Widow now, and man, like, when I'd seen pictures of like Iron Man 2 and you had the picture of Tony and Widow, I was just like, man, that's crazy. It's gonna take some time to get over, because we got 11 years of our lives invested into these characters, man. Like, that is wild. But either way, so with them, you know, taking those real stakes and realizing, okay, well, you know, Banner said that we have to make that count for something. Like, we have to make this work. We can't just let her die in vain. So it was crazy, because, you know, from there, when we finally got to see Tony put the stones and create a gauntlet for the stones, like, that was wild. I was like, yes, another callback. The way it looked with the stones assembling into his hand, like, that was just, it was just an epic moment. And Rocket, that little dirtbag, man, like, when he said boom, just scared him, bro. I would have been terrified. Too. But for a quick second, my mind went back to Captain America: First Avenger, when Howard Stark was testing the powers of the Tesseract. Was that the First Avenger? I think so. Well, when Howard Stark was testing out the Tesseract and like, what's the big deal with all this? And he did something that exploded, and he was like, write that down. But whatever reason, it took me back to that. But just going forward, man, with them finally figuring that out and coming to the place of where, you know, they have the gauntlet now, and who is going to do the snap? Who is going to actually, you know, fix everything? And Thor was like, man, let me do it, man. It's crazy, because I feel you in my heart, but at the same time, you drunk. No, you drunk, bro. We don't know what kind of world we gonna wake up in if you do this, man. Because Cap and everybody was like, whoa, buddy, calm down. We don't know who's gonna do it. I know in Cap's mind, he was probably thinking like, it's not gonna be you. But we don't know who's gonna do it, but no, just relax. Yeah, man, but when it coming down to Banner actually doing it and saying that he felt like it was made for him to do, made a lot of sense, because he had expressed that there's a lot of gamma radiation involved with it, and, you know, the way they have it in the films, anybody can't just put on the gauntlet. It's a lot of power surging through that gauntlet, and it'll definitely kill, you know, any human being who does it, and Banner is likely the only one who'll be able to use it and not die. And that really just was like a precursor towards, you know, when it's done and you know, and it having to be Tony, like, you know, it's gonna kill him. But man, yeah. But when we finally got to for Banner to use it, and that's when we seen Nebula had the Nebula from 2014 had actually came and you know, took the place of the other Nebula and brought Thanos and the ship and the entire sanctuary back. Was it 2014? That Sanctuary or Sanctuary 2? Can't remember. Okay, so but either way, so but with her bringing Thanos and everybody back, it was just like, man, for one, that Thanos from that time period, he is way more bloodthirsty than your Thanos from your 2017, 2018. The 2014 Thanos, like, man, like, he was a savage. And I did a video on the Endgame prelude, and in that video I talked more about the book that actually was it Titan Consumed, I believe it was, but talking more about the origin of Thanos and everything that he had been through prior to the first time we had seen him in the MCU. And you really get a lot of that, because for a long time Thanos had been trying to after Titan was destroyed, after he found out Titan was destroyed and Thanos was a prisoner at the time, when he found out, he had then build up his followers, and he went out first soliciting to planets. Let me do you a favor and just kill half your population. And of course people mocked and laughed at him for a while, but after a while he stopped asking. And like it's like you see that Thanos when he's searching for the stones back in 2014. Like, that's that Thanos who stopped asking and was like, I'm just gonna do what I feel like I need to do, how I feel like I need to do it, which was totally wrong. But either way, that Thanos was way worse. And having him, just after Banner, or Back to the Future now, when Banner had did the snap, brought everybody back, which was like, whew, okay, people are back. And I like that they established, like, the people who came back from the snap, they only remember starting to being dusted, and then they just remember waking back up. You know what I'm saying? And of course on Titan, during this whole time, from now to the very end battle, like Doctor Strange, I just imagine Doctor Strange explaining everything to everybody. You know what I'm saying? but after everybody comes back and Thanos attacked the Avengers facility, it's like, man, we here. This is it. This is going down. It is going down. And like I said, I love the fact that Banner holding up the building and it not crushing Rhodey and Rocket. I thought that was cool. It reminded me of Secret Wars 85, or Secret Wars back in 85 or whatever. But it was just wild, because when it came down to it and Thanos actually stepped off the ship, he told Nebula to go find the gauntlet. And I'm glad that Clint found it first and was chased by them Outriders, whatever. But I'm glad he found it first. But when Thanos came down, he's like, he told Nebula to go find the gauntlet and bring it to him. Find the stones, bring it to him. He didn't say gauntlet. He said find the stones, bring it to him. And Nebula's like, what are you gonna do? He's like, I'm just gonna sit here and wait. And that was so gangster. Cause when you see Thor standing on the ledge looking at him, and he's like, and Cap and Tony like, what is he doing? He's like, just standing there. And he's like, you know this is a trap, right? And Tony is like, but I really don't care. Thor's like, as long as we all in agreement. And then when he calls both the hammers and he changes into his outfit, I mean, he's still fat, but it's crazy, because it's like your old King Thor in a way, kind of. Which would kind of reminded me of, aside from, not having the white hair and having two eyes, or almost two eyes. But it was really a hype moment, man. It was really a hype moment. But getting into that final battle, seeing Thor fight with two hammers was crazy. That was just mad wild. You know what I'm saying? Very War of Realms, like, even in that sense. But even on top of that, when Thanos, Thanos is a beast. He is a beast fighting everybody off, man. And it is wild, because at the point where you feel like he's about to sink Stormbreaker, when Thor calls back Stormbreaker and it's about to sink into his chest, it's crazy, because when Cap picks up Mjolnir, and it's like there were a lot of fan art and people saying, oh, he's gonna do it in the movie, but it's like you really don't know until you see it in the movie. But when Cap picked up Mjolnir, man, it was just like, oh my god, like, he's worthy. Thor's like, I knew it. Age of Ultron once again. Age of Ultron probably has the most callbacks in this movie. Like, it's crazy. But it was wild, man, because like just seeing how good Cap was fighting with Mjolnir and his shield. Yo, when it came to the point though, when Thanos knocked the hammer away and he started hammering down on the shield and breaking it into pieces, I feel like that was kind of the part of, that reality that Tony had seen in Age of Ultron, possibly, you know what I'm saying, with the shield, why the shield was broken and why Cap was like, Tony, you could have saved all of us. But either way, we'll talk about another thing. It was just crazy, and like when it came to the point of where it was a standoff between Cap and Thanos, and then Sam comes in on the comms, is like, Cap, can you hear me? I was just like, oh, here we go. It's like, here we go, man. It's wild, because when he said that, and when the sling ring, when that portal opened, and you saw T'Challa, you saw Okoye, man, oh my God, like, by seeing T'Challa right there, seeing him alive and back, because we knew everybody was back at this point, but when seeing them arrive at this point in time, the way that Black Panther walked through, it took me to Secret Wars, the 2015 Secret Wars, and it was like, man, like, this is just like in the comic, like just seeing him come through first, to see him first, you know what I'm saying? Even though we heard Sam first, but visually seeing him first, and I would have loved for him to, to put on the gauntlet at some point in time during this fight. It didn't happen, but that's one of the things I would have liked to have seen. But with seeing this happen, and it coming to the place of where all the different rings started opening up, and everybody from everywhere started coming in, it was just like, yo, this is just so epic. This is just so epic, dude. Like, man, like it was crazy, dude. But and finally seeing Spider-Man and them come back, and Spider-Man pretty much explained later on, like with Doctor Strange explaining everything. But seeing everybody come from their different locations and come through, and when Cap, when everybody was standing there, Ant-Man came up and brought, Hulk, War Machine, and Rocket Raccoon, but when Cap had everybody there together, and he said Avengers, yo, we was in the theater, we started holding hands. And I was like, he better say it. Like, yo, if you don't say it now, I was just like, he better say it. He better say it. He better say it. He was like, Avengers. And everybody, the whole theater leaning forward. He said, assemble. And it was just like, oh, the theater was just, man, like the night I first seen it, because I first seen it on Thursday. And like the entire theater, bro, was just blowing up. Everybody was just like, oh. There was so many scenes in the movie where people were going crazy, but that one right there, Avengers Assemble, that was that one, man. But man, it was just so epic, dude. It was so epic, and we got to see, Pepper came through with her rescue armor. Her and Tony fighting back to back. You know what I'm saying? I was like, oh, look at the parents. And but yo, when it came to the point, because Clint was running with the gauntlet, when it came to the point of where Clint got knocked down and T'Challa came up, he said, give it to me. I'm like, oh, is he gonna put it on? He didn't, but when T'Challa was running with that gauntlet, I was like, this dude is a running back, bro. Like, I'm like, this dude, man, he is going to the end zone, wherever that at. He was going to the end zone with this thing. Like, he was moving, bro. He was moving. But yeah, but not much long after, with the madness going on, and like with when it came to the point of kind of where Thanos nearly got the gauntlet. Well, he did get it, but when he got it and he nearly got to snap his fingers, and Captain Marvel arrived. Of course, she blew the ship up and all that, and like no, back up. So with Black Panther running with a gauntlet, that was just crazy. That was wild. But when it came to the point of where Thanos was like, he told them to just rain down on everybody. You know what I'm saying? And Corvus Glaive was just like, well, you're gonna that's gonna, what about the troops or whatever? And Thanos was like, bump it, just rain down. And so when they did that, and went for a while, I was like, okay, this is getting ridiculous. it's time for Captain Marvel to show up. You know what I'm saying? Which it was. They started pointing up, firing up there. And when they did that and Captain Marvel showed up, just flew through the ship. I'm like, she gonna do what she did in the movie. She flew through the ships and just, did her thing, like just punched through that, took that out. And Thanos was like, what is this? Like, what is going on? But after she did that and she came back and when she went to face Thanos, and it's crazy because when Thanos got his hands on the gauntlet, and I was like, oh my God, he actually put it on. And I heard somebody in the theater like, not again. They was like, not again. I was like, man, this movie gonna be 6 hours if he snaps his finger, bro. But it was crazy because when he put back on the gauntlet and Captain Marvel grabbed his hand, like she nearly finna break his fingers. Yo, and when he headbutt her, and it was like she didn't even go back. Like your Justice League, Superman headbutt Wonder Woman. She went back. She's like, okay, let's go again. Nah, Captain Marvel, Thanos headbutt her, and she didn't even bat an eye. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, what? And the look on his face was like, what the heck is this? But when he took the Power Stone out, and punched her with it, I was just like, that was so clutch. I gotta give it to you for that one. That was clutch. But man, it was wild because it came to the point of where, with him having the gauntlet, having all the stones, and it's like, yo, man, this can't happen again. Like, this cannot happen again. But when him having the gauntlet and the stones and him facing off with Tony, and it coming to the point of where, him knocking Tony back, and Doctor Strange was like, he didn't tell him, he just held that hand like one, because like, if he told him, it wouldn't have happened. Because like, even if he said it in that moment, that him actually saying it in the hesitation, any bit of hesitation from Tony could have been it. It could have just been that split second too long to where that's it. You know what I'm saying? But with him telling Tony what to do, and with Tony fighting Thanos for like about 5 seconds, even after that, and putting his hand on the gauntlet, and what's crazy, which we didn't see, but the whole in my mind, like up close magic kind of thing, but with the whole thing of him touching the gauntlet and really just using the nanites to switch the stones over to himself. When Thanos snapped his finger and nothing happened, bro. At first I was thinking he still had the stones and like it just didn't work because Tony programmed it not to work like that. But which probably would have helped and saved his life. But who said there was 14,606 ways? That would have been it. But either way, so when Tony took the stones back, man, and he said, I am Iron Man, snapped his fingers, I was like, oh man, this is it. Tony's the one that dies, man. And it was so crazy, man, because it just goes all the way back to Cap saying, man, the whole argument in Avengers 1, just like, will you cut the wire or lay down on the wire? Well, Cap told him, he was like, you're not the type to lay down on the wire and sacrifice yourself for others. And Tony's like, yeah, I would rather cut the wire. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's what Doctor Strange was talking about when he said that, if I tell you, it's not going to happen. But to see it actually play out and that actually happen, man, it was wild. But, oh man, I gotta wrap it up because this thing is getting super, super long. I didn't mean to go this long, but it was just so much I wanted to get out and say, and there's a lot more that I want to do, but I gotta break it up in different videos. But yeah, but even talking about like the funeral was mad emotional. Proof that Tony Stark has a heart. That the casing that Pepper had made for him, the casing that at one point saved his life. It was crazy seeing that. But the message that he made, I gotta say this. So the hologram at the end, where we saw the recording of Tony leaving a message. Well, he said it was a recording, talking about, I'm making this hopefully in celebration. I believe that was actually Tony. I believe that was actually Tony, and that he backed up his consciousness into the AI. And I'll dive deeper into that in another video, but I believe that was Tony. He backed up his conscience into the AI, and mainly because what kind of recording will look you directly in the eye and say, I love you 3000? When he looked at his daughter, you know what I'm saying? And it's like when he did that, said it to his daughter, and Pepper had this look on her face, like kind of like this aha moment. You know what I'm saying? That was pretty wild. But real quick, just to spend a little time talking about the ending with Cap and him deciding when they went back in time to put back all the stones, and the decision he made to, as far as not coming back right back to the present, but actually living out his life and growing old with Peggy till she passed or whatever. I love the way that they handled not killing Cap, and you know what I'm saying, and flipping up the dichotomy between Tony actually dying and knowing so many people love Iron Man. People are like, oh no, they're not gonna kill Tony, this, that, and the other. But with them making that decision, how they handle Cap and how they handle Tony, and then the whole thing with Natasha actually giving her life for the Soul Stone is like, that's wild, because they took the routes that you least expected. And I feel like somebody at one point made the prediction of the end of the film having Captain America grow old. It wasn't me, but I feel like I seen somebody make that theory at some point in time. But I like how they handled it because it's very unexpected. But one thing that gets me with Cap is like, okay, I get that when he traveled back to these different realities and put the stone back in each one, that okay, he put it back to kind of fix their timelines in their alternate realities, and so that it wouldn't be as bad of a thing going without it, whatever. So they wouldn't just be totally screwed like the Ancient One had mentioned. But with that returning back to where he would grow older, the shield, for one, he took the shield from another Captain America who is just without a shield. You know what I'm saying? Now, my thing is, the thing that gets me, that the one thing that I just can't let go and just can't like figure out is what happened to the Captain America who existed in this timeline, in this reality. You know what I'm saying? That Cap left and came back to. What happened to him? If Cap went back to the past where he was also Captain America and well, still under ice or whatever, it's like, what happened to that Captain America who came back out, fought with the Avengers, this, that, and the other, and all the events up to the present? So I'm thinking like, okay, is he still somewhere around, just, you know, living a normal life? You know what I'm saying? Or what? Like, that's one of those things that, like, y'all probably help me out with y'all ideas on that. But yeah, still trying to figure that out. But yeah, I'm just gonna wrap it up for this one, man. This is a long video. I mean, Endgame is a long movie, but hey, I feel like I spent like a half hour talking about every hour of the film. But either way, man, this is your spoiler talk. There's gonna be plenty more spoiler talks. Leave your thoughts down in the comments. Feel free to get your spoiler talk on in the comments throughout the whole weekend, and for a good while I'll be back and forth throughout the comments, just kind of squatting up with you guys instead of just the first hour, because it's way too much to talk about, way too much to go back and forth on. So I feel like just 1 hour wouldn't do it justice for this momentous event that is like a once in a lifetime. Like the MCU, man, like we're not gonna see anything like what this whole arc has done in films. You know, at the most, other films have probably done their connective universe or whatever for 6 films or somewhere around there, like your Harry Potters. I didn't watch a lot of those, so I don't even know how much they got. But what the MCU has done in what Avengers Endgame, the punch that it is ending with, bruh, like we'll probably never see anything like this again in our lifetime. But yeah, that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. We're definitely gonna squat up on this one for a good minute. But yeah, man, it's wild, and there's more to come. Definitely more to come about this. We're not done talking about Endgame because there's so much more to pick apart and get into that we've seen in this films, man. So let me know your thoughts below. We'll do it again in the next one. All right, later.